Hi, all. I'm Dan Smigrod. I'm the founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Wednesday, July 18th, 2018, and you're watching WGAN-TV live at 5. Our guest today, hey, Colin, good to see you, as always.
Hi. Hi,
Our,
Dan.
our, our guest today is Colin Forte. He is the founder of photoandvideoedits.com. That's photoandvideoedits.com. Colin, today's program would like to cover three things. One is some best practices for photos, shooting photos and workflow for photos. Second, talk about photoandvideoedits.com as it relates to photo editing. And third, you're so good at this. I want to talk about the topic of how to make money and as a photographer and bundling and packages and add-ons. But I thought before we go forward, we'd go back and just kind of establish a little bit about who you are. As I recall, at some point in your career as a real estate agent, you sold something like $165 million in real estate in about 2 years. Why don't you rewind and take us back and tell us your story so we have context for today's show?
Sure. Actually, go all the way back to 1998, where a friend of mine, he badgered me into getting my real estate license because he said I was wasted doing what I was doing at the time. And at the time, I had a boat rental and jet ski rental business. So I had some time on my hands because I had a couple of locations with some managers that were operating them. So I thought, well, why not? And so I went and got my real estate license. I was fortunate enough for my very first listing to be Celine Dion's personal home. So that kind of like launched me in quite a big way. And then I went on to working for a boutique company. I got headhunted for a company and learned a lot of stuff there. And basically in the last 3 years I was in real estate, I sold about $165 million. And that was without a team. And that was just me, myself, and I. I burnt out, but nonetheless, it was very, very good to me. And at the time, I was the only agent that I knew of in the entire area. In the last 3 years, I'd started getting video shot on the houses that I listed for sale. And I never, ever failed to get a listing. Not one time did I ever go on a listing appointment and not get the listing. And my ex-boss was so curious at the time as to, how comes you're getting every single listing? I've never heard of such a thing of any agent. We got the best agents here of ever doing that. And I would always tell him, I said, well, I'm offering them this very unique video. I sit them down in front of their big screen TV, pop a DVD player in and say, I'm going to get one of those done on your house for you. And as they say, a picture paints 1,000 words, well, a video paints 1,000,000. And I always got the listing. And as I mentioned, I kind of burnt out in real estate, and it actually led me to the company that I still own, that I bought all the equipment for in 2005, called Home Takes. And I was way, way, way ahead of the time. As I said, I was the only one back then doing video on my own listing. So it was kind of a tough sell, trying to get other agents to see what I'd seen, even with my backstory. And that led to a lot of learning lessons along the way of, pricing when it came to what real estate agents were willing to pay and all the rest of that stuff. So in 13 years, I can pretty much say now I know the ins and outs of running a photography tour business. Learned the hard way, all the ups and downs of what to do and what not to do, and workflow and all the rest of that stuff. And then that in turn is what's led me to photoandvideoedits.com, because outsourcing was one of the key players as to growing my business from the Home Takes business that I owned.
Now, I think one of the interesting things in hearing your story is that not only were you super successful as a real estate agent, but in that process, you ended up with this business, Home Takes, you still have today, and you are a Matterport service provider that also does photos and video and aerial. And so you've had a chance to see it from both sides, as from a client standpoint and also as a service provider standpoint.
Yeah, there's the client standpoint as the real estate agent. That's where the photography and videographers that'll be watching this now, their clients are the real estate agents, and I was once a real estate agent, so I know that industry inside out, upside down, and back to front. I thought I knew agents better than I actually knew them when I first got into the tour business, but I didn't know them quite as well because I just assumed that most everybody thought the way I thought, and that was you got to spend money to make money. I came early to the realization that most real estate agents don't think that way, and they want to retain every bit of that 6 or 5 or 7% of whatever it is that they're trying to keep, and so that was a pretty tough part of the learning experience from owning the home takes, because I lost money certainly from 05 to 08. The company was not profitable at all. It was a big hole that it was like I just kept throwing $100 notes down the hole. But
but I think that's actually maybe bad for you, but good for our viewers because they don't have to make some of the same mistakes. And from that mistakes, I think you've probably had tremendous learning. Before I ask you about that, I just want to say, I know we have Keith is a Matterport service provider that's in our virtual studio audience. Keith, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to bring you on the show to chat with us on air here. So I guess we'll find out in a moment if that's okay. So, hey, Keith, glad to see your dress there. That's a plus.
I am currently putting up new computers today. So. Okay.
And maybe if you just scoot over a little bit, you'll hide the light behind you, and then it'll give you a little halo. Yeah. Maybe even better if you slide over, if you don't mind. Yeah, so while you're getting your setup over there, Keith, I'll go ahead and introduce you. This is Keith Foster. Keith is the founder of ID 360 Media, Matterport service provider, photographer, videographer, aerial, in Destin, Florida, and that greater Destin, Florida area, in the We Get Around Network Forum.
Coastal Alabama.
And Alabama, all the way up to Mobile. And I thought it would be good to have you on the show at this portion, Keith. Thanks for joining us, because we were just actually getting into the topic of best practices for photos, shooting photos and workflow for photos. Keith, maybe you just square up your camera a little bit for us. Okay. We'll get a little bit better shot for you. And I was going to start with Colin on this, but frankly, I think I'm going to jump in first to you, Keith. Can you rattle off some best practices? Assume I'm a Matterport service provider. I just bought a Matterport camera. I'm not a still photographer, but I realize that every one of my potential clients is asking me for still photos. What is there a top 10 list you'd say? After you get a camera, what to do?
First thing I'd do is to visit some sites of real estate agents that do well, and it's pretty easy to see who those are just from the quality of the photos that they put up, and just page through and see one thing or the other. I would suggest one thing I had the fortune of doing was I was forced to attend a seminar on how to stage a rental property for photography for a large company. It was for Wyndham Resorts. And I got so much of an eye for, what you do anytime you walk into a property. It just becomes part of your DNA. So much so that I can't pass a wood slatted blind without it being open and perfectly horizontal and level and all those things. So, staging a home, how to prepare the shoot so that you can.
Let's assume it's all staged. Everything's staged. Just let me talk about it as a photographer. What's the height of the camera? Where does the camera go?
Sure.
Wide angle lens, no wide angle lens.
I use a full format Nikon camera, and I think this applies to about anyone. But my typical preference is a zoom lens at 16 to 28 millimeters. So on full format, that's where I'm shooting, more toward the 16 millimeter end than the 28 millimeter end. I try to capture as much of the room as I can. simply because it's more efficient that way. Large shots also tend to promote the feeling of space and openness, where tighter shots tend not to do that. Just generally speaking, though.
Height of the camera?
Dependent on what you're trying to look at. Obviously, in bedrooms, I tend to go a little bit lower. Bathrooms, I go lower to stay out of mirrors a lot of times. But say if you're trying to look over a kitchen counter, then that would obviously require you to raise that camera a bit just to see over it. But generally, the camera is about at my navel or a little higher as I'm going around. Bedrooms, bathrooms, it can be lower. And in some situations, it can be me laying flat on the floor.
Camera is located on
a tripod.
In the corner of a room?
Typically, I typically like corner shots. The one thing I discovered, I don't know if it's by accident or whether there's an obvious reason for this, but it seems like the best shot I get of a room is in the door frame, looking back at the room. For some, you've got the most room there for one, but
vertical or horizontal for MLS?
Sorry,
vertical photo.
Always landscape. Always.
Okay, horizontal landscape. Size of the photos that you're submitting to MLS? It's
very MLS dependent. I work currently with 5 different MLSs, and some of them are very specific on what they have to have, and others are not so much. Typically, I deliver a 1920 by whatever 4:3 corresponds to a lot here, because that's just the systems that they have. I understand that there's a lot of MLSs around the country that are now accepting 3:2 aspect, and they might here as well. I don't know, but
okay. So the important thing is, wherever you are starting out as a photographer, you got to find out what your agents are submitting to, so that you can check what the submission requirements are in terms of size. Flash, no flash?
I shoot 5-shot bracketed HDR, so I rarely have ever used flash, although I do submit flash shots to the folks that do my processing as a way of checking the color, as a way of making sure that the colors are true. A lot of times my camera shooting in RAW can get a little bit orangey or a little bit bluey.
Okay, a lot of new terms if you're a new photographer. So we don't need to define them here, but I think it's important for, if you're a newbie in terms of a Matterport service provider getting involved in photography for this first time, you got to look up HDR, got to look up bracketed, shooting 3 or 5 bracketed photos HDR. I think when we come back to Colin, we'll talk a little bit about bracketing and raw photos, raw, RAW, another term there. Twilight. Do you go out in twilight and shoot?
I do. I started out just trying to catch them on happenstance at twilight, and have since evolved into knowing how to allow the processor to create twilight.
All right, digital twilight. We'll get into that with Colin. That's thanks for teeing that up. How about the order when you shoot?
Sorry?
Do you have a particular order that you shoot your photos?
Yes. Well, weather dependent, first of all, and in the area I live in, the weather can change very quickly. So I tend to, if there's blue skies, I shoot them rather than doing the substituting. And if I have to do blue sky substitution, I'll leave that till the end and then capture them.
Okay.
I try to be as mechanical as I can so I don't forget things, and so that I don't do I don't chase my tail around a house. I start in the front door, shoot the entryway, shoot the brooms immediately off the entryway, and proceed through the house that way. If I know I'm going to have a tripod change in height, a lot of times I'll save those all to the end. Say a bathroom where I want to stay out of mirrors and so forth, I'll save those all to the end.
Okay.
That's typically what I do, but try to be as systematic as possible. In a lot of rooms, there's kind of the 4-corner method, where you shoot from each of the 4 corners in a diagonal across the room, and you can't go wrong with that.
Okay. Four Corners. I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I want to say Four Corners means something else to me. But we'll go Four Corners for real estate photography too. Homage to Coach Dean Smith. Okay. I think I counted about 10. Anything you want to add to the list before we ask Colin?
Not really. Other things would kind of get in the weeds a bit.
All right, let's stop there. Okay. Colin, anything that you wanted to add to that list that Keith took us through?
No, he pretty much covered it all for any experienced tour providers already. I think they'll agree that the fundamentals of everything they said are there.
Okay, I'd like to ask you to embellish on a couple things because you receive photos that are bracketed. So can you talk a little bit about just the bracketed and raw in context of photo and video edits.com?
Yeah, sure. When you asked if I want to embellish anything that he had said there, I'm not quite sure if you meant, well, do I have any comments with regard to some of the things that he said that I would or wouldn't do in terms of a business standpoint. I've got some comments that I can make there, but if you want to delve straight into RAW versus JPEGs, that's fine.
Yeah, let's just talk a little bit about that. I mean, what is your preference in terms of what you receive from a photographer for your service photo and video edits.com?
Undoubtedly RAW. RAW images, you don't lose any information whatsoever in regard to the photo itself. JPEG is a compressed version of camera actually sees, and so when it goes through that compression process, you're losing some of the details. So it's much easier. You're going to get a better result if you submit RAW than JPEGs. That being said, it may be hard for some people to define any difference between somebody that took the same photos in RAW and JPEG and seeing the differences afterwards. But I certainly know that the editors prefer to work with the RAW images than JPEG.
And do you prefer 5 bracketed, 3 bracketed, or no bracketed?
Again, I've had people that submit 7 brackets, 5 brackets, and 3 brackets. The results at the end, they don't really look any different to my eye. And for those that are total experts and can tell the difference, that's overkill for what you're producing for real estate agents anyway. So I'll get into that a bit more about perfectionism from the photographer's standpoint and how that will cost them money at the end of the day.
And in terms of workflow, Colin, I think you have a very unique, hopefully it's not unique, but certainly it's something that seems very special. Can you talk about shooting photos and video, and even maybe the camera of your choice, and why you do what you do? If you could just, I think you have an idea of where I'm going on that. If I could just kind of.
Well, it's always best for allow me to rewind a little bit as to the reasons why we do what we do with regard to home takes. Back in the days where I made a lot of money in real estate, I had a personal coach, and one of the things that he told us was that time is obviously worth money, and when you do start making a lot of money, you do look at your time differently, because you're like, wow, you break it down into what you're making per hour, and then that makes you say, I can't afford to waste any time focusing on the small stuff. It really needs to be on the big stuff that makes me the actual money. And so you really do realize that the term time is money more than anything else. And so taking that away from when I changed from being a real estate agent into a tour provider, I never lost sight of that. And so I worked it all the way down to even seconds. I actually worked out once that if Bill Gates was walking along and dropped $100 bill while he had his mind thinking about something he had to do that day, he should just carry on walking, not bend down and pick it up, because it cost him more money in the time it took him to bend down and pick up the $100 note than was worth the distraction of actually doing it, based on how much money he made per second.
Yeah, I think Keith, I think we probably have that same problem, right? We just leave that $100 bill on the.
I think that applies a little differently to us mere mortals. You drop $100 bill, you do bend down and you do pick it back up. But the point of that obviously is time management, because time is money. So knowing that. And that got back to the pricing issue when I very first started. The least expensive tour you could get from me was $700. It went up to $1,200. And I was wondering why I wasn't getting very many bookings, because, hey, this is video. This is great. Look how good it is. And everybody loved it, but they didn't want to pay the money. And so, I had to work out how to get that price point down before real estate agents would say, yeah, okay, now that fits my budget. So that all got down to the workflow. Long story short, I was only shooting video to start with. I realized that they wanted one-stop shopping. They wanted photos as well. So I had to get into the photography business. I was just the videography company at the time. So when I got into the photography business, then that added a second element to going out shooting tours. And at the time, that was before I call it the breakthrough camera, the Canon 5D Mark II, where it shot 1080p video phenomenally and took great photos as well. Before that, you had to go through the property twice. You had to go through once to take the photos and again to take the video. So when the Canon 5D Mark II came out, that changed everything in terms of time, because it took video and it took photos. So we went through, we took the video shot, then we took the photos, then we went to the next room, video shot, then the photos. So it really, really made a huge difference in the time at the property. Time's money, less time, less money to charge. And so that brought the price obviously down considerably, because we were there at the property probably about half the amount of time that we were prior to that.
Awesome. I think just to add to that story, perhaps, is even the order that you shoot the photos and the video.
Sorry. I got a little off track there. So yeah, that obviously I kind of modeled the business around, I call it the McDonald's model. You go into McDonald's, you got a guy standing there. What do you want? You want a hamburger? You want a French fry? It sends the order back there. Somebody looks up, sees the hamburger, sees the French fry, and pushes it out. It's done. It's simple. You don't have to be a chef to produce and make money in the food business, or you don't have to have your employees to do it. So knowing that time's money, that's the model and the approach that I took to everything in the tour business. So therefore, the workflow was important. Same as what Keith mentioned. You start off, if the weather's nice on the outside, you're going to do the outside shots. And that's kind of judgment call. We wouldn't do the front shots and then run around and do the back shots if it looked like it was total blue skies, even in Florida where the weather changes just like it does, or South Florida, just like it does in Destin and Alabama. If it was clear blue, then we kept it to the workflow. Sure. If it was marginal, when it's like, okay, I think it looks like it's going to rain in the next half an hour, yeah, then we would shoot the front, go around, shoot the rear, and then sort out the order later. But getting that workflow done at the property, and I'd call it editing on the fly, because that reduced the workload. Whatever you could do up the front would reduce the workload afterwards, when you got back, and you had a lot less sorting to do because you shot in the order, and just like Keith said, you come in, you shoot the front, you shoot the rooms that are directly off of walking through the front door, generally a living room or a great room, the kitchen, the dining area, office, if there's an office. And then we'd go in and shoot the bedrooms last, and then go outside, shoot the pool or view or patio shot, and then the view shot.
So the key takeaway here is you're shooting the photos and video in the same room as you keep moving from room to room. Keith, do you follow that workflow as well?
Well, I don't do a lot of video, so but yeah, that's how I do still photography, is certainly in a way that's that systematic for sure.
Okay. Well, we did an entire show with Colin on photo and video edits.com, best practices for shooting video and the workflow associated with it. So if you haven't had a chance to see that entire video, it's in the We Get Around Network forum. If you're watching us on YouTube, WGAN forum.com is our short handle, WGANforum.com. So, Colin, thank you for sharing that, because I think that's just, an amazing insight to say, if you are shooting photos and video, do it at the same time, do it in the order that you're shooting, that you need the video, that you need I know you go into that at much greater length in our other program for the video, but shoot it in the order that you're doing it, shoot it at the same time. Don't double back to shoot. Don't shoot video first and then come back and shoot photos. Make sure you have a camera that can shoot both photos and video at the same time.
Yep, absolutely. Because it's just going to reduce the amount of time there at the property. If you're at the property less, that means you can shoot more properties in one day, which in turn is going to put more money in your pocket. The money is in the shoot. That's where the money is in the tour business, photography business. It's in the shoot. So getting more shoots is paramount to making more money to your bottom line.
Which I think leads us really to photo and video edits.com as an opportunity to outsource. So I think even before we go into workflow and for you to demo to say, okay, I'm ready to outsource, let's talk a little bit about why outsourcing is important.
Well, outsourcing is important because you can focus on shooting more shoots during the daytime. Otherwise, you'd be working 24 hours a day if you didn't outsource. And of course,
Keith, I see your head going up and down. Are you working 24 hours a day?
Not anymore.
Keith, yeah.
I started out that way and didn't realize how tedious editing can be. I love doing it, and I still do it for certain clients and certain situations. But at about the third day at finishing at about 2 a.m., you realize this is not a sustainable business model. Not. Correct. And I'd like everybody to make sure to watch the other video you referenced, and it's really challenged me since I saw it a couple weeks ago, where I am taking fewer shots on scene. And I'm not to the point yet where I can delete everything in camera at that point, but I'm getting there because I realize there's no added value in taking 30, 40 extra shots on a shoot. There's none. Because
you're spending time to do those, and you realize that that's wasted time, and time is money.
Exactly. And it's also not a sustainable thing. It's not adding any value to the client. They're going to get Correct. The same shots whether I take the 20 that I know are going to be great or the 50 and then pick the 20 out of there that are great. That's
so let me ask you, Keith, are you selling packages? What's your business model as far as, so people say, okay, I want you to come out and shoot 15 photos, 30 photos, 24. What's your business model?
Well, I started out in the false belief that I could make a living shooting Matterport only. And it was only about 2 weeks or 3 weeks into it that I realized that I needed to be selling photos. And so I went that way. And I typically bundle Matterport with still photos. And my standard package is 25 still photos for up to about 2,400 square feet. I'm pretty generous with photos. Then as the property gets bigger, I'll add a few photos here and there. And
when you say add them, you talk about adding them for free?
No, they're included in the package price. But basically, a la carte, my photo price is about $5 a photo added. If they're paying for 25, they want more, they're going to pay $5 a photo extra.
So what did your competitor charge extra per photo? Do you know?
About the same. That's kind of more or less the standard. Now, that's not what I would charge if I were coming out and doing photos. Only 25 photos is going to cost them about $200. That's just kind of the standard going rate for HDR photography.
So if you're shooting, if your end game is 25 photos for that about 2,500 square foot house, how many photos, how many images were you shooting?
Oh gosh.
Prior to watching our previous program with Colin.
I'm embarrassed to tell you. At least two times. At least two times.
So Keith, I'm going to give you a very, very quick tip for you to put that time back into your pocket so that you can use that time to get more shoots and make more money. You should only shoot the amount of photos that they're buying for the package, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, you got no choosing the photos later on.
I agree.
And secondly, you should have the
no
customer.
Needed here.
Yeah, you should have the customer review the photos with you at the end of the shoot. So, and you never want to take more than there is to review, because that is just a nightmare when then you've got to recount how many photos it is that they're paying and then let them choose between, would you like this one or do you like that one?
No,
and then,
I don't ever allow that choice. If I select, I do if there's selections made, I'm doing the selection generally, unless it's a special, kind of thing. What I typically do is I fill up my card, transfer them to my laptop, and then have Photomatics I've got a preset that I run all the photos through quickly so I can more or less figure out which ones I want, and then ship those off to the processor that when I get back to the office and have good internet speed. So.
Right. But the actual review process, are you doing a review process with the customer?
No.
Okay. See, this is a key area that will cut down the amount of time vastly. The way we do it, first of all, we take
this is with Home Takes, your other business in the greater West Palm Beach area.
Yeah. I think you said you had a Nikon D7000. Is that what you said you had?
No, a 750.
Oh, sorry, 750. Does that have an app on it where you can download the app to an iPad and run the camera from the iPad?
It does.
Okay. All right. Well, the way we do it, because I thought a 750 is a relatively new camera, isn't it?
It's probably at least 5 years old. It's probably the sturdiest full format, least expensive, sturdiest full format camera that Nikon makes.
Okay.
You find a lot of photography students having it, and it also it has some ticks, but by and large, it does a lot of things very well for the price.
Okay, but the main key component here is the fact that it does have an app, and you can take the photos using the app rather than touching the back of the camera. Yeah,
I believe so. I've got to check into that.
Okay.
I'm not certain of
that.
Well,
the way we do it at Home Takes is we use the camera. We use the app that's downloaded on an iPad Pro, and I don't think the back of the camera has been touched for forever. And so the photographer will go around, and let's say they've purchased a 5 through 13 package, comes with 8 video scenes, 13 photos. So he'll go out and he'll take the video and the photos, and we'll review just the photos. We don't review the video, just the photos. And because he's taken it on the iPad, now they can review the photos on a large format screen, almost as big as what most of the screens are when they get it back on the computer. And they're going to look at the shots, and they're really looking at the shots for the angle to make sure that that's the angle that they like. The beautiful thing about when they do that is that they're approving the photos and the shots, and they know what they're going to get. And if there's something that they don't like about it, well, then that's the time to say, no, I don't like that. Can I, I want that taken from a different angle. Sure, no problem. Delete. Okay, move on. Once they've reviewed them all, you take the tripod and say, okay, come on, come hither. And you reposition the tripod in another spot, and they're looking at the iPad before you even click. You say, is this what you like? Yep, that's what I like. Boom, click, hit the shutter, you're done. The customer has got every photo. They know what they're getting right the way up front. There is no figuring out afterwards because you've took more shots than you need.
Right.
That's it. They've chosen the photos right there.
Keith?
And,
yep.
Your thoughts on that?
I think it's genius. It works against every bit of training that I ever had as a photographer. But the important thing, I was telling Dan the other day, Colin, that I had about a 2-year background in corporate quality improvement. And it's very analogous to inspecting goods. This is what I'm doing now. It's something that adds cost, but it does not add value to the customer at all. And so whether I take 25 or I take 50 or I take 200 photos, it adds $0 of value to the customer. And, it's just hard to get your mind to apply it to artistic endeavor, which it
is. You're absolutely dead on, hitting the nail on the head 100%. I said in my last video, for those people that watched it, and they'll hear me repeating myself again, and I'm sorry for that.
That's okay. This is so important, and I think Frank, we should go hallelujah. Keith just had a moment, and Colin, talk about that.
Well, one of the things, when I hired the photographers, videographers, I said, listen, this is going to go against everything that you learn in school with the way, in regard to the way you shoot video. You got to untrain your mind, and you've got to do it this way, because I'm not a photographer and I'm not a videographer, but I am a businessman and I know how to make money. And so then it was a tough thing for them to do, because when they go to videography school, they're trained to like shoot one shot, do another one, and pick it out in post. And here I am saying, no, you can't do that. You just got to do one shot, and if that's the one that you think you got right, that's it. You delete all the other shots, and that's the one you're going to keep. And that's why I called it editing on the fly, because when it came to post-processing, which they're not the guys going to be editing, because they're just going out doing shoots, then we don't need the editor thinking, well, which one did the photographer, which one do I think I like best out the 4 shots? Then he's got something that he's got to choose. That's time, that's money. So I fully understand when you got to try and get your head around, well, that's not the way it's ingrained upon me. But you got to try and forget that, and that's going to lead me on, and I will talk about it a little bit later, but about the and I'm experiencing this with the photo and video edits.com is we all tend to be perfectionists, and you don't have to be and give the perfect photo for how much that these guys want to spend on their photography. When you're not shooting for Architectural Digest, getting paid, $1,000 for a shoot, or $2,000. I knew some photographers that they wouldn't come out for less than $3,000 for a 2-day shoot to shoot a large home that was going to be an Architectural Digest. If you were doing that, well, that's a different story. But you're not. You're shooting for real estate agents that want a decent picture for their marketing. So, and every single customer that's come into photo and video edits.com, I tell them, hey, listen, I'm more than happy to have a conversation, a Skype conversation with you. I'll help you improve your business and your workflow and what you do. If you want some tips, I'm here to help you. I even had one guy the other day that said, you know what, I'm paying for your time. I said, listen, I'm happy to pass this information on as far as the tour business is concerned. But I've already experienced that, you know, the fussiness of they wanted it to be absolutely 100% perfect. And if you're one of those people that just cannot help themselves, and no matter what, they're just not going to get, you know, they're just never, ever, ever going to change that about themselves, then any outsourcing is not for you, because if you want to micromanage your business and you just can't get rid of that from within, then there's no hope.
Yeah, Colin, let's come back to that. I want to come back and just, I want to overstood what I'm hearing Keith saying. So, Keith, if your package was 25, and I understand you just had this hallelujah moment, but before the hallelujah moment,
sure,
25 pictures for 2,500 square feet, but you were actually shooting about 50 pictures.
Yeah.
And then you were downloading them and uploading them and making a decision of which one was better.
I was downloading and the sort of pre-processing them, I guess I could call it. It was running them through Photomatics without a lot of the noise reduction and time-consuming stuff. So you get a pretty quick answer, and you can kind of look and see what's going to look the best. Just as a check on myself, making sure my exposures are right and so forth. And what I've realized is that HDR is an extremely forgiving method. You can be off on your exposure and it will still turn out okay. Yep. And if it's not, the processing people that you're sending them to can surely figure out how to adjust lightness and darkness, especially if you get to know them and they know your preferences and so forth a little bit.
So I think what I've heard is the next shoot that you do, you are going to do the shoot perhaps in half the amount of time, because you're only going to shoot 25 pictures, not 50 pictures.
Absolutely.
And you're going to reduce on the back end some of your post production by perhaps 50%, because you're not having to sort through the pictures to decide which pictures.
Exactly. Sort through it 100%. I mean, drop that 100%, basically. And if I could, and the other thing that is slowing me down in my current workflow is that I receive the photos back from the processor, and then I just have to intervene and make sure that they're all right. And, you know, I see Colin shaking his head, and you know what I'm talking about, you know.
Keith, I love you, but it's time completely and utterly wasted.
And
let me tell you why, though. Let me tell you why, right? And here's the biggest reason why. 99 out of 100 real estate agents are not going to tell the difference. They're just not.
You're right.
They're not going to be able to tell the difference. And guess what? For the one that actually does, you're not going to turn around and say, well, that's just the way they come and like tough doo-doo. You're going to say, no problem. I'll get it fixed for you, right?
Exactly.
And fix it later. Fix it then you fix it.
Right.
But don't let that hinder you and slow you down and go, oh, you know, that's the micromanaging bit that you've got to try and lose, because that's not earning you money.
That's right.
Colin, could you expand on that as it relates to perfection and good enough?
Yeah, you know, I've got an expression for home takes. I say, you know, we're not the best videographer or photographer, but what we are is the best value. And you won't get a better value for all of what we do for the price we charge. Yeah. And the photography and the videography are good enough for what the real estate agent wants to pay as far as their budget's concerned, and for the results. They don't need any more than what works for their budget. They just don't. It's anything more than that is you're throwing your money away. You're throwing your time away, which is in turn throwing your money away.
I think earlier in the show, Colin, you talked about that when you got started with video, you were doing what might have been considered somewhat high end. If you were shooting $700, $1,200 videos for real estate agents, probably something that's not heard of today, except maybe in a itty bitty teeny amount of shoots. And I think that part of the thinking process that you went through was saying, well, I can keep charging 700 or 1200, but it's a very teeny percent of the market that will pay you that. And I think your conclusion was, what is the larger market? And it's the base of real estate agents that won't pay a lot. Maybe they'll pay $199 for a video. Okay, so if
video
that's,
and photos.
Pardon?
They get video and photos for the $199, the Fly Through 13 package, which is what the cost is. They get both video and photos.
Which is, for many of us, probably crazy, but you got a factory that you're running. And I think that's really interesting to understand of how you're able to do that. And I think it's really part of today's discussion. So I think if you say, well, do I want to do my $700 to $1,200 for a very small percentage of the market and not be busy? Or where is the larger base? It's the real estate agents that are willing to pay $199 for the deliverable you described. Then once you came to a price point for the largest base of potential clients, then I think you had to think about, well, what does the workflow need to look like? And that's the magic of both home takes and I think even photo and video edits.com. Do you want to talk a little bit more about this thinking that you went through and where you've come?
Yeah, I mean, what would you rather own? Would you rather own Rolls-Royce Motor Company, or would you rather own Ford? Well, as a business owner, I think everybody would they love the prestige of owning the Rolls-Royce, beautiful made car. It's like the best of the best. But you much rather own the Ford Motor Company because it makes a hell of a lot more money, and the money's in the masses. It's not in,
And then you can buy a Rolls.
And then you can buy your Rolls. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you own Ford. You drive a Rolls, but you own Ford. The money's in the masses. There's no doubt about that. And it took me a couple of years to really realize that that's where the money was. And so therein started the hunt of how am I going to get this pricing down to this number. And I soon realized that you have to go out and you have to get more shoots. Well, in order to be able to do more shoots and be able to edit them, there's only so many hours in the day, and I had hired help. I wasn't the photographer or videographer, but nonetheless, I couldn't expect anybody that worked and went out and done the shoots after they've been shooting from 9 in the morning through till 4 or 5 in the afternoon to then go back and spend just as much time in editing them. It wasn't feasible. So that in itself right there said, okay, I've got to get this. I've got to get this done somewhere else. And that was when outsourcing was in its infancy. And if anybody that's outsourced to a company directly dealing with the foreigner company themselves, they'll know, it's still a huge headache today because of the communication issue. It's not the easiest thing, when it comes to the communication. And if you think it was bad then, you should have tried it back then when I was doing it, because, they were new to the business as well. So, it was definitely really, really tough, but I persevered.
Well, I think this sounds almost counterintuitive, is that one might come to the conclusion that in order to outsource, I need to charge more money in order to be able to afford the photo or video editing. And I think in your case, you've demonstrated that, frankly, you had to charge less money. And as soon as you charge less money, then you must be out. You must, whether it's you shooting photos and video, or you've engaged team members to shoot photo and video, that you come to the conclusion that where you make your money is by having lots of shoots compressed into a day. It's not in the editing.
Yeah. I mean, I had a friend of my dad's back in 1977. He sold his company for £30 million, which I think the dollar was 2 to the pound at the time. So it was like $60 million back in 1977. Huge amount of money. My dad said, how much do you make? He made pies, meat pies for fish and chip shops. He was the #1 meat pie supplier meat pie supplier for fish and chip shops in the UK. He said, I make a penny a pie. My dad's like, just what? Just a penny a pie? He goes, yeah, but I'm selling like 4 million pies a week, you know. So, you know, when you go a penny a pie, it's like, how can you make it? Can you earn any money at that? Well, he's selling 4 million pies a week. Do the math, you know, and you know, production cost per unit is, I think, the term that they use in the corporate world. You know, then the more items that are made, the cheaper it becomes to manufacture them. So again, you know, I used a lot of the big corporate way of thinking and applied it to this. And you know, yeah, I make less per shoot, but when you're doing a lot more shoots, then that's where the money comes back. And it also comes back in extras. As long as you've got the base price, that's the attracted price, people will add on. There's no question they will add on extras to that tour and shoot, which means in and itself, that's why you can't just be like a Matterport supplier or a video supplier. You have to have everything, because you're going to make money on the other items that you have in your arsenal.
What's the minimum set? Photos? Not pricing. Photos, video,
Matterport, in that order. No question, in that order.
And then,
then you got all your add-ons. Your add-ons that, you know, if you do a Matterport, you can do a floor plan. You know, and the $15 from Matterport or the other Blue Sketch. You know, if you want an improved version. I don't know what their pricing is. I don't know if it's 20 or 25, but anyway, you know, and you can go and sell that for, you know, $50. Well, that's what I found anyway. $6
outsourced.
Yeah, I mean, we call it a twilight enhancement at home takes. When we take the daytime photo and make it into a nighttime photo. With photo and video edits, that'll cost you 5 credits. And if let's say you're on a 1,200 credit plan per month, it's $1 a photo. So it costs you $5. You can go and sell that for, on our Fly Through 13 package, you can add 2 twilight enhancement photos for $30. So it costs you 10, you sell it for 30. That's a $20 markup.
Sorry.
As the tour company owner, you didn't do anything but tell, you know, direct it. So, okay, I want this. And it came back. And you made $20.
Yes. And
there was no work really involved other than saying, oh, yeah, do this to the photo, please. And giving it back to the client.
And for a lot of photographers who may not be in the value pricing, very competitive pricing that you're at in the greater West Palm Beach area in Florida, that $30 might be $49, might be $99, might be $149 for the floor plan. So it's an add-on that maybe you didn't make a lot of money on the photo shoot, but all of a sudden you're selling twilight, you're offering video, the add-on is Matterport, and so forth. I did want to come, Colin, I got so many questions for you. I want to come back to you, but I just want to stay with Keith for a moment and say, Keith, it sounds like you've had a couple pain points in the learning of the photography bit, that you've been working past midnight, it sounds like, in order to edit and deliver shoots.
Sure.
So you've come to the conclusion that you've needed to outsource. We'll get that in a moment. But as soon as you started outsourcing, do you have the number of jobs that you were able to do in a day more because you're now outsourcing?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I as an example, a smaller rental management company, and like the work that I did, engaged me to basically shoot their entire rental inventory between the 1st of April and the Memorial Day weekend, and you know, that would have been pretty daunting in keeping all my other clients happy had I not had the opportunity to outsource. In fact, it would have been impossible. I'll just say that. As it was still pretty challenging.
And I think I'm going to guess three things happened as soon as you started outsourcing. One, you had time to spend with your family and friends, or watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Two, you were able to shoot more jobs, which three led to making more money.
Mm-hmm. All the above. That happened to coincide. I live in this area because my parents retired and moved here a long time ago, and they have been extremely healthy up to this year. And they both decided this year to have health crises. And in the middle of that April to May period, when I was shooting all these jobs, was one of the worst of them. And I was able to schedule that in. Had I been editing, there'd been no earthly way I could have even completed the job, much less attend to them too.
Yeah, sorry to hear about the health of your parents. But I think it does drive home the point that you can get done shooting, perhaps get done with your day at 6 o'clock, outsource it, go spend time with your parents, other family members, friends, just relax, and typically wake up the next morning and the jobs are ready. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, Colin, I want to talk to you a little bit more about this outsourcing thing. Are there other reasons to outsource? We hit three of them. One, in order to get your life back, be done at 6 o'clock. Two, be able to spend more time with friends, family. Perhaps two is be able to do more jobs in a day and actually be able to perhaps charge less money but make more money.
Yeah, I mean that's for me that was like, that was the number one thing, was to put more money in my pocket and work less. Well, that's one and two actually.
Okay.
It may sound counterintuitive, charge less and spend more money by paying money to outsource, but then you have to put a value on your own time. And that's what I explain to people when I have one-on-one conversations. I'm like, well, what's your time worth?
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take you to edit these photos? So, okay, it's cost you how much to edit these? It cost you a lot less to outsource it. Because if you're not putting a value on your own time, thanks for playing, but your time is worth some money. It's, you have to put value on your own time. And if you're not, then you're giving that away. And,
perhaps another way to look at it is to say, what is it that you do that's most valuable? Is it business development and sales? Well, if you're taking time away from that because you're doing editing, then you're not making more money because you're not making sales. If you're really good as a photographer and you have somebody that's doing business development, then you're taking away from the number of shoots you can do because you're editing.
Yeah, exactly. It gets back to what I said in my last video. And again, apologize to anybody that watched it. And I'm going to repeat myself right now. But when I was in the real estate business, and when you're doing those kind of numbers and bringing in that kind of money, you want to improve upon. You want to work less. You want to work less and no more. We got a coach. We got a coach that coached Fortune 500 company employees. The top tier of employees, of how to manage their time more efficiently, more effectively, work less and earn more money. And one of the key things that the first thing he asked when on the first day was, would you like to put more money in your pocket and work less? Of course, everybody said yes. He said, so I'm going to teach you how. And the first thing that he said was, what you have to do is you have to focus on what makes you the most money. And so he asked the entire room. There was only 3 or 4 of us it was a small sessions. What is it that you do? The number one thing that you do that makes you the most money? And we all said simultaneously, get listings. So he said, so that's what 80% of your time should be spent is focusing on getting more listings, because if that's where your money's at, that's what you need to be doing. You need to delegate the rest. And don't ever expect when you delegate something to be done to your 100% standard. It's never going to happen. You have to learn to accept it's going to get done at about 80% of what your standard would be. It's about 80% is fine. And I know all you guys are going to whoa. But he said, That's the way you make your money. Remember, don't lose focus of where you make your money. Delegate the rest. And I took that knowledge along with me, and that's why I say to people, don't focus on being a perfectionist on every single photo that comes back, because that's not where you make the money. You make the money on getting more shoots, because more shoots means more dollars. And you can always, if the customer's not happy about a particular photo, hey, no problem, give them great customer service, we'll get that fixed for you, sir. They're happy. They're still happy at the end of the day. But stop micromanaging the photos that go out, because that's costing you money. That's it.
I'm looking at Keith because you've been smiling while Colin is talking, and I imagine you have been the perfectionist that had the aha moment to say, maybe for these real estate pictures that I'm shooting in production, I don't need to be quite the perfectionist that I need to be.
Well, you're absolutely right, and it's very it's a very hard thing to do. It's not that you dial back your expectations, you place them in another area. The area you place them in is productivity. And the one thing I wanted to mention earlier that totally dovetails with what you've been saying about price is where I've seen the most growth in my business has been with agents that are good professional agents who sell more in the subdivision type homes, the ones that are not that expensive and typically wouldn't in the past pay for photography, but they're doing it now because they realize that they sell so much quicker. Their turnover is so much better when they have good marketing materials, even though they're paying, some slice of that low commission is going toward marketing. They're still doing better in the long run because they're listing more, they're selling more. And that area has been tremendous in terms of my own growth.
Yes. And now by helping the agent get more listings and win more listing presentations, and then maybe in your case, if they can sell the house faster, they can handle more business. I think you're having like these amazing aha moments. And in addition to now shooting half the number of pictures you've been shooting and editing or doing your post for half the number of pictures, you're also going to have a lens on your work to say, good enough. Don't need to be a perfectionist. Just doing that step is going to free you of a tremendous amount of time so that you can work on your business development. Colin, I wanted to get into photo and video edits.com, but before I do, I'm fascinated on this iPad thing. You got hooked up to your camera. If you're doing bracketed shots, how do you avoid having the agent look at all 5 bracketed shots?
It's real simple. I mean, when you meet a new client, of course, you have a bit more of an explanation. But once you've showed them once, then they know exactly what they're looking at the second time around. You just point out to them the fact that what they're looking at as far as the colors and the actual photo is going to be, completely a different view of what they're going to see when you're reviewing the photos. Mm-hmm. So we would say, we're going to just show you the lightest and brightest one, and you're looking at this for the angle perspective to see if you like the angle.
When you're going like this, are you setting it on
1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Okay. Because I wonder I happen to have a Canon Mark III 5D Mark III, and it'll do in-camera HDR. So I wonder in my case, if I was doing the workflow that you're describing, that I could do 1, 2, 3, 4 and get to the HDR in-camera version.
Yeah, if it's taking the if it's taking the brackets and it's also you've got the ability to show an in-camera HDR after those 3 brackets, then that would be the easiest one to show them, of course, because it's going to have more color.
Do you happen to know what that app was called?
Well, it's the camera app it's the camera app that, I can only speak for the Panasonic GH4. That's what we shoot with. And the Panasonic GH4 has got a camera app. You just download it on the App Store, and that's it.
I got it. So if someone is listening from the Panasonic GH4 product development team, please build in a feature for jump every 5 images or every 3 images, whatever. So you can go like this for the real estate.
You're still going to have to scroll though.
Yeah.
It's going to take the numbers in sequential order.
Yeah, but if it jumped every 5 or 3 or whatever, you'd go to maybe pick out the best one. Anyway, besides the point. Sorry. You all can say squirrel anytime, and I'll move on to the next topic. So, Colin, how about giving us the workflow for? Okay, I'm at the point where I'm convinced I need to outsource. I'm ready to use photo and video edits.com to outsource my photo editing. It's 6 o'clock Eastern time in Atlanta. What happens? Do you want to walk us through your workflow? Do you want to give us a screen share and show us?
Well, yeah, sure. I can. You just want me to go log into like my own sort of test account, and I can show you what the process is.
Sure.
I don't think I need to go through the sign up process.
No, it's fine. It's very easy. Assume I've just signed up for photo and video edits.com. I'm ready to upload my first 25 images because I know not to shoot 50.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't want to pay somebody else to edit 50, knowing I'm only going to pick out 25. So I'm going to just give you the 25 I need.
All right. Now I will say this because I have noticed it happen quite often. For anybody that's watching that's going to sign up to get the 53 credits, you must enter your cell phone number in order to get the 53 credits because we send a text to your cell phone that you need to plug in to the pod in order to get your 53 credits. If you do not put your cell phone number in, you will not get the 53 credits. So that's very, very important.
Okay. And also, if I know we've been on for a while. If you've been watching the whole show, stay to the end of the program. We're going to talk about pricing because we have special offer for We Get Around Network Forum members, and we have special offer for We Get Around Network Standard and Premium members. So hang in there for the pricing. But Colin, I've signed up. Now what? What's my next step? And Colin, if you can hear me, I think you've actually frozen. So I don't know if you can hear me or not. Are you starting to move? Okay, good. You're back.
Okay. Okay, so you can see the screen, yeah?
Yeah, and the website is photoandvideoedits.com.
Okay, so here you have the dashboard, and we try and keep things as simple as we can. So if you were going to place an order for photos, you're just going to click on place an order and photo order. And here is, if you got out and shot 3 properties, then you're going to want to add 3. If you've just shot the one, then just one, whatever number. So I'm going to just, for the purposes of the demonstration, I'm going to say that we've shot 2 properties. And let's see now. Okay, so here is where you're going to choose whether or not you shot single photos or bracketed. And in the case of what most people are doing, they're shooting bracketed. So you're going to leave this defaulted onto bracketed, and then whatever groups of brackets that your camera's taken, whether it's 3, 5, 7. That's generally 3, 5, 7. I do have somebody that's uploading 6. So let's see.
So if you're just tuning in, you're watching WGAN-TV live at 5. Our guest today, photo and video edits.com founder Colin Forte. And we have a guest in our virtual studio audience, Keith Foster with ID360 Media in the Panhandle area of Florida and into Alabama.
Okay, so you drag and drop. Oops, didn't quite do it that time. Okay. So it'll automatically scroll to the bottom. It sometimes takes a little while for it to do that, but once they've all these have loaded, it'll scroll you down to the bottom where you click submit. But before I'm going to do that, just to explain that if you've got a particular note that you want to make on a particular property, you can make that notation right here. So for example, like we add fire to fireplaces, images to TV screens and things like that. And let's say you've got that defaulted set under your photo preferences, but in this case, the house is vacant and you don't want the fire in the fireplace or the image on the TV because it looks kind of strange. And you may just want to make a notation here saying, do not add fire to fireplaces. Or
Can you go back up to my accounts just to pull down that menu to see what some of those options were? Could you take us through those?
Yeah, my photo edit preferences. This is where you should upload the photos that you like and what you like about the photos. You've got the opportunity. I'll cover that in actually after I've submitted, and I can show this more in detail. But it's where our editors, when they get a job that comes in, they get to see your photo preferences. They actually have to. I made the system work so that they had to look at the photos, so that they saw what the customer likes before they can actually download the original files. So that's what they'll be looking at, is your photo edit preferences. And they're going to look at the photos that you've selected there. You can upload your own, or you can, once you've got some photos back from us, you can click on the little love heart thing and it'll stick it in your photo preferences. You can make a note as to what you like about that photo or don't like. In actual fact, it's a good idea. I had one client, they took a screenshot of something, the same photo. Here's how not to do it, and here's how I like it. And they uploaded that to their photo preferences. And that actually helped a lot, because the editor will take a look and you can say, okay, well, I know not to do them this way because he likes them this way. So, you know, whatever, the more information like that, the closer that you're going to get to the edits the way you like them. So my profile, that's your information. My team, that's if you've got white label photographers that work for you. You can add one if you don't currently have. If you hire another photographer, that's where you would add it here. Subdomain settings, that's for.
Excuse me, you went a little fast for me. Back on my team, you mentioned white label. What does that mean?
Well, white label is if you've ever gotten to the point of where you've got 2 or 3 photographers that work for you, and one of them decides that they want to go out on their own, doesn't tell you, and leaves on the Friday, and then on the Saturday they're emailing all of your clients that you had, because that happened to me once. You want to arm them with the least amount of information of how you run your business, you know, so that you can try and avoid that. So I came up with the white label site, which basically means it's a site where the photographers that work for you can go to, and they'll actually probably think that it's your website extension, because when you create the subdomain setting, you're gonna use your own domain name photo uploads, I think it is. So your hometakes.photouploads.com, say, for example, and the photographer is going to assume that it's your own website, and it's not. It's actually ours, with no branding, no anything. Very, very plain, very simple. And it's a way that your photographers that work for you can then go upload the photos, and they actually come to your account with us. They don't know that. So for anybody that's got photographers, why would you tell them your secrets of how you run your business by letting them know that you're us? Don't do it. Just give them the link, give them the username and password, and tell them to log in there and upload their photos there. They're going to think it's your site.
Mm-hmm. Keith, if you were starting to grow your team, would that be important to you?
Absolutely. You know, not to mention, I was just thinking on Monday they'd receive the lawsuit. I'm not going to engage anybody.
Well, you see, at the time, I kind of smelt what was coming, because this guy worked for me for 5 years. It was totally shocking horror, actually. But in the last 6 months, I was trying to get him to sign a no compete. And he was dithering, not signing it, and coming up with one excuse after the other. And then next thing you know, he's gone.
Well, I think I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm so happy that you had that experience, because it meant that you channeled all that energy in how to make a white label version for photographers going forward, of not to have to let the team know what the back end tool is that's being used for photo and video editing.
Exactly. And, you know, if I were, you know, I wouldn't be telling, if I was a photographer, you know, Keith, you know, there's nothing gained by telling the person that you hire that you even outsource. Nope. I'd let them think that you were editing and working until 3 o'clock in the morning still.
Absolutely.
You know, it's none of their business how
right.
you're running your actual business as far as that part's concerned. So I'd let them think that you were editing your own photos that you were shooting plus theirs, you know, and you got to bed at 4 a.m. in the morning, you know, because you don't want them leaving you and copying you. And you can't blame anybody for, you know, for wanting to better themselves if that's where they think it's going to lead them. And as it turned out, it did not lead this guy. He soon stopped doing what he thought was easier to do as a business owner.
Okay, point taken. So my team, add photographer.
Yep, subdomain. That's if you know. So if you Keith, if you do add a photographer, you're going to need your subdomain. That's where you would create your subdomain under ours.
Sure.
Manage credit cards. If you once you've already signed up and you got a plan, if you wanted to add a different credit card, you know, for whatever reason, then that's where you would add it. The transactions is your history of the charges. Change password, delete account, log out. Pretty self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Is there any of those other menu items we should take a look at before you accept the photos being uploaded?
No, I can actually go through these in a moment or two, so not to lose focus on. And one of the things that I must point out, and I've had this happen several times, is when you're dragging and dropping, you know, these are the bracketed shots for this property. They're all bracketed in 5s, every one of them, and they have to be in order for it to work in our system, because you can't go uploading a set of photos that some are bracketed in shots of 4, some are in 5, some are in 6. And I've had that happen. It just completely messes up the whole system. And, you know, basically we have to delete the order and ask you to re-upload them in just the brackets of 5 or 4 or 7 or whatever it is. So it's very, very important that you make sure that that's what they're bracketed in, is whatever, you know, you'll see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and yeah, it's the same photo. And then you go to the next one, and, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's the same photo. So that's what you've got to make sure that you do when you do go to upload these shots. Now, you can, if you do find yourself, let's say you use 2 different cameras for whatever reason, and one camera's taken in brackets of 5 and the other camera's taken in brackets of 3, then you can merely just change that. It's not clickable now because I've already uploaded these photos here. But prior to me dragging and dropping, you can actually change the sets of brackets here. So, or let's say you've uploaded aerials and you've just got they're in single shot photos, you would just change this to single shot and drag and drop your single shot photos in there. So you can upload multiple properties and you can upload different amounts of brackets, but whatever you do within that property, you have to have the right count on the photos as far as that's concerned.
Mm-hmm. Do I need to leave this screen forward on my browser after I've hit submit photos?
Yeah, well, one of the things you got to make sure is your computer's not into power saving mode or sleep mode or whatever, because once you click on submit, it's going to start uploading. And if you've got it in sleep mode, it's going to go to sleep. It's going to stop the upload, of course. So can I move off this page once I've hit submit? Yeah, once you've hit submit, I'm going to click submit right now. And then we got a little pop-up warning that says so. One of the cool things that on our platform is that it'll actually upload 6 at a time. And you can see these are, 20 meg files. I've got a good connection at the moment, so you can see how they're.
The days of Dropbox.
Exactly. This, and I spent an awful lot of money on the development of the speed in which these will upload.
In fact, Colin, I've known you for many years, and we've talked about what is now photo and video edits.com for quite some time. So you've worked on this for about 2 years, even before you made it public.
Correct.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that I got the platform easy to use, easy to understand, not too busy with, well, what does this do? How do I do that? Ease of use was very, very important. And also on the practical standpoint, for example, you're uploading raw photos here, right? With raw photos on web browsers, you can't see them. You can only see JPEGs or GIFs or TIFF or PNGs and certain other photo formats. And here we are uploading RAWs, yet we're still managing to get the thumbnails. Well, that was me spending extra money on the development of making those RAWs be seen as thumbnails on the web browser, because I just thought that it was a much cooler. Rather than just show nothing, let's at least show the photo while the uploading process is going through. Just things like that, stuff that people wouldn't even think of, that I may want to make sure it got covered. So the upload's now complete. There was just two final photos.
Do I get an email that tells me that my photos have successfully uploaded?
Yep, sure you do. That email would have gone out. Let's see now.
We don't need to look at it, but just to know that, yes, I got an email. Okay.
And actually in the email, it tells you the address of the property, and it tells you when your photos will be completed by as well in the email. So right now it's in assigning to editor mode, and then once it gets assigned to the editor, it'll appear under the processing on your dashboard, and then when you get the photos back, it'll show up as ready orders.
And your promise time is?
Our promise time is within 24 hours. I like to under promise and over deliver. But normally, if you're uploading them in the evening, they're back in your inbox.
I noticed in the We Get Around Network forum, Chris Hickman, Metroplex 360, had run a large batch through photovideoedits.com and commented that he had uploaded them at the end of, I want to say 3 a.m. For whatever reason, he had a very long day. He wasn't expecting them back for 24 hours, but when he woke up in the morning, the pictures were ready. So I think that was probably a great example of under promising and over delivering.
Yeah, that's what I always aim for. So
okay, great. My order is ready. Now what?
Okay, so your order's ready. Let's see. I'm going to go to a completed order segment. Completed. Because I'm going to show you. Okay.
Okay, so that order is still processing, but you're showing us a previous job to say, okay, once your order is ready, now here's what you
exactly. It will come under the ready orders section. Right now, I'm under the completed orders section. Basically, we give you 7 days to request any adjustments to the photos, if there are any that you need. Our adjustment, we're getting very, very few, and that's because we do our very best to get the photos the way that the photographer wants them, and then that's the goal, so that we have very few adjustment requests. Let me just click on. So after 7 days, it goes from ready to completed, and then once it's in the completed folder, you can't request any further adjustments to the photo. Okay, so let's assume we're in the ready, and we want to look at the photos. We've got a before and after.
Whoa, that's amazing. Someone would submit a picture to you that looked like the before on the left side?
Yeah.
Really?
Because the verticals. And the good thing about this as well is when you are requesting adjustment, you can see the previous photo that was before the adjustment, and then the after photo as well. So you can actually compare to see that what you requested was done.
That's amazing.
And then if you like a particular, this will add, let's say, I don't know, you like this photo in particular. You just make a comment on what it is that you like about the photo, click save to my photo edit preferences.
And so this becomes more of for your photo editor to be able to get to know that photographer of what they like, dislike.
Correct.
I like the way you did the clouds. Even though it was a blue sky day, you still made puffy clouds and reduced the number of clouds.
And this is, just an example of what I've written. These are my photo edits preferences right here. So, you make, I like the exterior saturation levels to look like this photo, just whatever comment you want to make. The water was originally a shade of light brown. I like it when the water has a kind of blue color to it, whatever. I mean, this is where, you put your photo preferences. And like I said, the editor cannot begin to edit your job until he's actually reviewed your photos, so that it makes them look, so they can't just get into a mindset of like, oh, okay, I'll just do the photos. They have to look at it. So going back, I'm going to take it to, okay, so now you want to download the photos. This is something that I spent considerable money in development and programming. With a lot of the other photo services, the photo editing services, there are actually 2 photo editing services that are United States based, as far as like, an American-owned company, both of which, the editors are not American; they're obviously still outsourced. I took a look. Obviously, I took a look and saw how those guys did it, and I thought, well, I can make some improvements on this, because you have to either request a certain size when you make the order, when you place the order, as far as the photo size. Or you just get the original size photos. And I thought, well, I want the customer, the photographer, to have the ability to be able to put whatever size they want in and make the photos on the fly, with or without their watermark, if they wanted to add a watermark, for example. So I also wanted them to be able to name the extension, whatever name they wanted to name it. Now, we do suggest that you use the street property address name, because SEO, as far as photos are concerned, when you've got the street address name in as the name of the photo, it helps with SEO on that photo, which obviously for real estate agents, that's a good thing, because and it saves obviously having to type the whole, change the extension name and type the street address of the photo in there. So we defaulted it to that one, but you can put your custom one in, or you can just use a sequential number version in. So you can actually choose that. So because these are made on the individual request, it will actually email you the file once you have chosen whatever parameters you want to choose.
Excuse me, Keith, how important is with your 5 MLS services is having the ability to specify?
Quick question. If you select a width and height dimension that is
well, you can only select the width, because in order to keep it without stretching the photo, you need to have it on autos.
So what I was getting at is, if you select parameters that are different from your native shoot format, is it going to automatically crop?
No, it won't do that. It's just it's gonna auto size the height.
Okay. It's
going to scale it accordingly. But it sounds like with your 5 different MLS services, this is really important to you to be able to specify. Well,
yeah, it may be. If they all would allow my native camera format, it would be perfect.
One of the reasons why that I moved over from the Canon 5D Mark II to the Panasonic was the MLS in the areas that we shoot at. We don't have to deal with 5, unfortunately, not like you.
Panasonic's a 4x3.
Yeah, but they're all 4x3, and that's that's the native format of the photos on the GH4 is 4x3.
Does it adjust the DPI as say if I were to put in the parameters for a 3x2 photograph, but see my Nikon is 60-58 by 48 something or other. And if I put in the right parameters for 3x2 but smaller, is it going to adjust down the DPI as well?
Might be getting a little more technical than my expertise there. I just know that the
file size is going to go down
5,300 wide and you put in 1920 wide, it's going to pixels. It's going to.
Yeah, I think what just happened, Keith, is you've just asked Richard Branson how to fly one of his airplanes.
Okay, sorry.
Remember, I'm not a photographer or a videographer, so that went a little beyond my technical understanding.
Stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night, right?
But I think if you asked Richard Branson how to fly the airplane, he'd say, "Let me get back to you on that and check with one of his pilots." And that's probably one of those questions that Colin could go off and talk to one of his teammates. So,
but I can look further into your question in the sense that anybody who's going to
upload something and see what it does with them. That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, but here's a step further than that. This was basically put in for anybody that needed to resize for MLS. Yeah, now DPI, from my understanding, is dots per inch for the purposes of printing, is it not?
It is. It is.
Okay. Nobody's going to want to print in web MLS photos.
Dimension.
So it really kind of becomes irrelevant, because if they're going to print, they're going to print using the full size version, the original version, and they're not going to,
So can I download the full size version?
Yeah, you would. It's very, very simple. When you click on email zip file, it'll create the link on the back end. It'll email it to you as soon as that zip file is made.
So I'm looking at the screen. It says with original. So that's going to be the full file size.
Correct. Original. And then you just click that and it'll email you the link, and you click on the link and it'll download the original file. And you can put in as many sizes, as you want. And the minute and all you need to do is click email zip file, and it'll email it to you straight away.
I think what you just showed us is that Richard Branson knows how to fly an aircraft, I think is what we've just learned.
Yeah, it's you kind of sort of. So as you can see here, also we've got a now I can tell you this. depending on how big you want the logo on your photos, this is where you may want to upload your watermark for those photographers that do want to upload watermarks for, say, non-real estate agents that they may have shot for, because I think most MLSs are going to ban you from putting your own watermark on your photos.
Yeah. Is that watermark in order to get paid by the client?
Well, I used to put watermarks until MLS said to the association in the area that I work, said, no, we can't have any watermark of any kind, even if it's the photographer's watermark on any of the photos.
Keith, how about for you? Does your MLS allow watermarks?
Zero branding, zero. I compensate for that, though, by injecting plenty of metadata so that I can find and prove that somebody's using photos they shouldn't be using. I'm going
to give you a little secret tip as to what we do. I put it in 2 areas. I put 4 red dots in one of the corners of the photos, and I put a single red dot in the middle of the photo. So if anybody tries to crop the photo out and crops out the 4 dots, there's a red dot, and you can't see it. The naked eye can't see it. So because just in case someone strips out the data, you can't get around. You zoom in on the middle of the photo and you're going to see 1 pixel. Sorry, I say a dot. I meant to say a pixel. So
that's included on all the photos we do.
No. That's what I do for home takes. That's a separate deal that I do specifically for home takes.
Sure. Okay.
I wouldn't mess with any of the photos as far as doing that on this. That's
all right. So I've downloaded my pictures.
Yep, you've downloaded your pictures.
That's it. There's nothing else. Is there something else?
No. Well, you can if you wanted to download a particular photo, then if you change that, you'll notice that this then changes to a download button. If you click on it, you'll download just that one photo that you opened. So
I was a little confused. How did I download all the pictures rather than just one picture?
I emailed them to you. Remember, it says email me the photo.
So you clicked on download. Oh, and there you're saying download all the pictures rather than just the individual picture. So you toggled on that menu.
Yeah, if you want to download, this here allows you to, if you just want to download a picture on the fly, and get it straight away, then because all of these photos are individually sitting on our server, but collectively, depending on size of the photos that you want, it then has to make the zip file on the fly. So rather than, initially when I was doing this in beta, I had a download button, but then when you click the download button, depending on the size of the photos and how many of them were, you had to just sit there and wait for the zip file to make it on the fly, and then all of a sudden appear and start going into your downloads folder. And that may have taken like 2 minutes, on a really large file with with lots of photos, or 3 minutes, and depending on, and I was like, yeah, I don't think people are going to appreciate having to just sort of sit there and wait before this thing turned around and said, oh, okay, now I'm downloading them. So I said, you know what, let's just change that to emailing them the file once the file's is ready. Because they'll go on to doing other things like looking at the next set of photos, and then by the time they've done that, they'll see it in their inbox.
I see a menu item that says Storage Center.
Yeah. So you get 15 gigs of storage for free. Anything over that, and then we charge you by the gigabyte. Other companies will charge you by the 100 gigs. So whatever you peak at for that given month is what the pricing is worked out on. So let's say,
why don't you take it off screen share and let's talk about pricing. And then Keith, I'm going to come back to you and ask what kind of questions do you have for Colin. But why don't you take us through all the pricing for photo and video edits.com?
Well, the easiest way, because to take you through all the pricing, I'd have to go from 1 credit right the way up to 4,800 credits. Our pricing with photo and video edits, it's a credit-based pricing system, but we don't nail you into, well, you can either buy 400 credits or you can buy 800 credits. Somebody may only use 600 credits a month, so we're totally flexible on that.
Let me stop you there just for a moment. So if you want to have a photo edited, it's 1 credit.
1 credit.
If you want to have a video edited, it's no more than
30 credits for 1080p, 35 credits for 4K.
So it's no more than 35 credits for a video to be edited. That's a whole nother television show for WGAN-TV that we did about a month ago. Okay, so if I know that I do 1 credit for 1 photo edited, or at the most 35 credits for a video to be edited, I can buy as many credits as I want on a monthly basis down to the, why don't you take us through the credits? How do I order credits?
Okay. Well, let me, I'm going to take you back up to screen share because it's actually easier.
All right. So Colin is going to take us back to photoandvideoedits.com. That's photoandvideoedits.com. It's going back to the homepage. That's where we're on now. And I think you have a calculator there you want to show us.
Exactly. So let's say I want to purchase 400 credits. And then, let's say you're doing 800, be like, okay, well, you want to try us out. So you only want to just start off with purchasing 400 credits. As you can see, it takes you straight to the cost per photo on 400 credits immediately. If I change that to 800 and then click calculate again, it'll adjust itself. If I go all the way up to, let's say I'm a very busy photographer, I've got others that work for me, it'll go down to as little as 75 cents per photo.
And what do you do for 75 cents?
We do everything over here that you see on the left.
Okay, it's a little bit hard to read the screen, so take us through what do you do for 1 credit?
Well, we're manually blending in images. We're not using Photo Matrix or I think Infuse is maybe the other one. We're doing them all in Photoshop. We'll window mask. That's not extra. We'll replace the sky where necessary.
You went a little bit fast for me. I'm a new photographer. I understand I now need to be outsourcing. What is window masking for superior window masking?
Okay, let me just show you on this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all of a sudden you can see outside, and before that you can't.
Okay, so that's window masking.
That's window masking. Yeah.
Yep, great.
And we'll actually blue the skies through the window. If let's say this whole entire thing was gray, it'll get blued up to make so that you can see outside, a bluer sky. So we'll actually do the bluing of the windows on interior windows as well.
Colin, in that example, I wanted to point out a real good thing. I noticed that the window muntins, the little cross hatches, are a little darker than the normal, which you always get with window masking, but your window blinds are not darker. There they are, just a touch, but they're not bad. I've seen in a lot of cases those window blinds look totally unrealistic because in the masking process they make everything much darker. This one, that one looks fantastic.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Yeah. Okay. So now Keith, I'm wearing my home takes hat. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there. In regard to over being concerned about something that's really may appear significant to you, but would never to the real estate agent. They can see outside that window. They're looking straight past the color of that blind. They really are. And I can totally speak from experience. It's not like I'm talking with a photo and video edits hat. I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, let's try and distract them from that. No, I've got my home takes hat on, been giving real estate agents photos for years, and you know, that's never been ever come up ever. So, and that's why I would say to you, you know, don't hang on to that. You know, I know, yes, it could be better than what, say, it came back as, but is it good enough for the real estate agent? And they'll let you know if there's something wrong with the picture. They will let you know. Nobody's perfect. We get requests from home takes occasionally, time to time, saying, "Oh, you know, can you change this about the photo slightly?" But not very often. Not very often.
All right. So you were taking us through your pricing.
So the pricing there is very.
Oh, I'm sorry. On the left side, you were taking us through what you do for one credit.
Yeah. So here's something. We brown grass patches turn to green. Dead spots it might be easier to show you. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Now it might take me a while to dig out.
We get it. But you get a nice green lawn.
So we paint. I call it painting the grass. And we don't touch the blades of the grass. That would be grass replacement, and that would be a paid for adjustment. But we paint the grass, so if there's any sort of brown dead spots and whatnot on it, it gets painted green. And honestly, it really is kind of a cool way of making that grass look better without actually having to replace the grass at all. And we do that included. And I know other companies will charge you extra for that. Obviously, the vertical lines straightened and fire added to fireplaces. That's all standard. You don't have to request that. And it's standard as in depending on what your settings are. Under photo preferences, if you choose not to have the grass painted, then you can do not. You just change it there. Because there are some agents that don't want images. Sorry, some photographers, they don't want images replaced on TVs.
Well, I think to your point, if there's no furniture in the place, it's a bit odd for the fireplace to be going.
Correct. And you could just make that notation on the individual, because if you've got it set to replace, add fire to fireplaces, and as standard, because that's what you'd want, and you shoot a property that's that's vacant, then that's where you would add that as a note when you place the order. Please do not add fire to fireplaces in this order. And
okay, great. Take us back to pricing.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So you have a calculator on the front page. So let's go back to put in 800 if you don't mind. If you have entered the desired number of credits, and in that example, it's coming out to $1.05. Now that's for 800 credits. Is this bracketed and I need to buy 1,000 credits or 1,500 credits? And you were just showing me what 800 credits is?
Yeah, I mean, if I change it to 1,200, it's going to drop down to $1. If I go...
I think where I was going there, Colin, is I can actually set my monthly subscription to the number of credits that I want. I'm not forced into a tier where I have to pick, I only need 800, but I have to pick. I think some of your competitors might have tiers where I have to pick a tier of credits rather than the exact number of credits that I want.
Yeah, correct. I mean, I realize, different photographers shoot different amount of photos and not necessarily fall between, they may fall between what other companies offer as a tier, So. And
okay, so I get to the end of the month, I got extra credits. What happens to my credits?
We don't take them, you keep them. You bought them, you paid for them. Why would we take them from you?
Because other services actually do ding you for and you don't get the full rollover. You get the full roll with photovideoedits.com. You get the full rollover of all your unused credits to the next month. You might still decide to reset the number of credits in your monthly subscription, but you have a choice about that.
Correct. And, you know, that the way I look at it is, if you've bought and paid for the credits, why would anybody want to lose them? It doesn't seem like the right thing to do. And some companies will take 80% of your credits and only let you have 20% of the credits roll over to the next month. So we don't do that. I mean, with us, if you wanted to, you know, you can change your credit plan along the way. So let's say, because it will fluctuate, real estate listings fluctuate between agents. You know, one day you may get 4 listings in 1 month, and you might not get another listing for 2 months, and then you only get 1 listing. So, you know, that's four properties to get shot by your photographer in 1 month, and then only 1 2 months later. So because that goes up and down, obviously your orders are going to go up and down, which is going to affect how many photos that you're going to need to edit for that particular month. So you may, let's say you're on 1,200 credit plan a month, and but you come to 2 slow months and you only use 800 on both. That means you've got a surplus of 800 in your account, and you say, okay, well, I really don't need to purchase at 1,200 for the next month. I only need to purchase 400 more. You can change your plan from the 1,200 to the 400 because you've got 800 sitting in your account anyway. And then the next month it will just charge you the 400, and then that brings you back to your 1,200 for that, you know, added up month. And just know that, you know, whatever plan you're on, if you do run out of credits, you will be charged at whatever that credit plan is set to at that time. But you can play with it, you know, you can play with it.
Yeah.
If you want.
Let me take you through pricing. So for anyone, you can, as a new client of photoandvideoedits.com, you get 50 free credits, which is enough to either get a video edited and some pictures, or enough to get 50 photos edited. And if you're a We Get Around Network forum member, we have a special offer, thanks to photoandvideoedits.com, is that you can get an additional 50 credits at no charge in your first full month, second full month.
In your for the members, you get 35 credits for the next 11 months for your premium and standard members.
Well, for We Get Around Network forum members, you get a 50 extra credits. But I'm sorry, we've been chatting for about 2 hours and I've lost my thought here. Which is, I think we actually give you 50 additional credits in your first full month.
Correct.
Okay, and then for We Get Around Network standard and premium members, in addition to what we just described, you also get 35 additional credits each month for 11 months. So you're essentially getting a free video every month for 12 months, as an example, or you're getting 35 photos edited every month for free. So there's something a little extra for We Get Around Network standard and premium members. Keith, you got some questions for Colin?
Bunches, but I don't want to go through all of them. One question I have, photos are delivered by zip file. Is it through email link, or are they attached to an email?
No, email link. You'll get an email that comes from us that says, hey, your photos are ready. Click here to download them. And yeah.
So typically, how does your typical US client deliver photos to their client?
Well, it depends if they're using a platform, you know, a tour link platform. With home tags, I've got my own system.
Right.
So,
Keith, how about asking that question when We Get Around Network forum? I think that's a great question, is to ask how, hey all, how are you delivering your photos to clients? Okay. What other questions you got for Colin?
None really, other than really in the weeds questions, but I think.
Ask a couple. Let's hear some of the in the weeds questions. What do you got for him?
It's been 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay. Tell you what, but Colin's really good about support. Just, send off, an email to, check out his website, file a little support request. Colin, I do want to ask, do you, we got Keith on the line. What kind of questions you have for, professional photographer in the Panhandle of Florida, who's thinking about, Keith, you set up a test account with, so you can, what kind of questions you got, Colin, for one of your newbie, he's taking you for a spin clients?
Well, I don't think I've got any questions to ask him, but I can certainly tell him that I'm not just here to help him with his outsourcing. He can feel free to, I'll give him, when we get off air, if you want, I'll give him my Skype ID, and I'm more than happy to chat and tell you more ways of making more revenue in your bottom line pocket. That's gonna make you more money.
All right. Well, we'll connect the two of you, but let's at least finish off here with share for all of us, Colin. How do photographers make more money? And I think you love add-ons and bundling. How about just giving us your add-ons and bundling thoughts?
If you want, it's very, very simple. If you are a perfectionist, you really got to try and kick that habit, because that's going to hold you back. The money is in getting more shoots. That's where the profit is going to be. Making more money, bigger profits, get more shoots. Your time is worth money. If you don't think it is, well, you're not valuing yourself at all. So, there's no two ways of slicing it. If you're starting out for the very, as a photographer that's only getting, 3 or 4 shoots per week, well, then I can understand, okay, well, you're not busy yourself, and so you've got time to edit. But the minute you start being able to sustain, yourself as far as an income is concerned, you need to make that switch so that you can put that focal point on getting more clients, because otherwise you'll end up, but you will burn out.
So true. And I think too, you're going to have some clients that you're going to retain on the basis of doing the editing yourself, for very high end things where you want it to reflect your professional artistic style. But and
you're charging them for that, and
exactly. But
that's why I agree. I 1,000% agree with you there, Keith.
But with the everyman kind of thing, again, hearkening back to my own corporate quality improvement process training, that what you're saying is absolutely correct, in that you define what the acceptable output is, and you meet that standard or you don't meet that standard. Meeting it is quality, not meeting it is a defect. And if you think of things in that way, then obviously the flow of the process becomes a lot more streamlined and a lot more profitable. And it is very differing. And I agree with you. I think that your average agent, they can tell the difference between a photographer that has good, we call them window pulls, or the ability to see out the window, and those that don't. A lot of them can tell the difference between someone who shoots with flash or someone who shoots HDR. But beyond that, really, I did have one technical question. My current processing company likes to have flash shots every now and again of a bracket that I take to double check the color. With yours, I'm guessing that the process is so streamlined that if there's an issue, when you get your photos back, you just simply say to them, look, I need the walls need to be a little more yellow. Here's an example.
Well, in actual fact, we had one yesterday. This photographer, she's doing around, she's doing around 1,000 credits a month. And she used our adjustment tool and just said, hey, this the walls, the orange walls are much more orangey. You know, can you put some more? Can you put more orange back into the photo? Done, and she's happy. That's it. You know,
your cycle time's so quick that it's not as big an issue. Mine doesn't cycle quite as quickly as that.
Yeah, I mean, with the adjustments, that's going to depend on whether or not the photographer, the editor is still on the shift when the adjustment comes in. If they're not, then the turnaround time on the adjustment may be when he comes back on the next shift. Sure. But the point I'm trying to make is now, again, with my home takes hat on, send out the photos to the customer, okay, the way that they are. Then send the new photo. Just update the photo with the customer to when the other one comes back.
Sure.
You know, and that actually makes you look more of a hero to your customer, because it will be like, oh wow, I did. Because most likely they may not notice, and then the mere fact that you're saying, hey, you know, I really wasn't sort of happy with the color, so I'm resending you this photo again. It's like, oh wow, my photographer, like, he's great. You know, he's actually sent me the photo back that he wasn't happy with, that I thought was okay. And it makes you look more like the hero. So, you know, and that's important, because you don't want it to interrupt your workflow where you're getting hung up on something about this color not being quite right. Oh yeah, well, now I have to send it out, send it to your customer. Be the hero, resend them the photo when it comes back, you know, the next day. And be the hero to your customer.
Awesome. Let's actually wrap it up there, because I know we could, you know, probably go on for hours, and we actually have been going on for hours. So Keith, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, you bet. This is Keith Foster, ID 360 Media in Destin, Florida, also in Mobile, Alabama, and the surrounding area, Matterport service provider, photographer. Thank you for adding your insight and your thoughts and asking questions today. Colin, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Very, very much appreciated. It's photoandvideoedits.com founder, Colin Forte. Colin is also the founder of Home Takes, a Matterport service provider in the West Palm Beach area in Florida, doing photos, video, aerial, etc. We have been recording today's show, so if you missed any portion of it, we will place it in the We Get Around Network forum tomorrow, Thursday, July 19th, 2018. I encourage you to watch the show, if for no other reason, to find out why you should not be picking up $100 bills off the street, or at least why you should aspire to not be picking up $100 bills off the street. And maybe that might be possible once you start outsourcing to photoandvideoedits.com for photos and video. Today's program has been all about photo editing, photos, photo editing, photo workflow. We did an entire show about a month ago with Colin on photo and video edits, best practices for shooting video, workflow for shooting video, and also workflow working with photoandvideoedits.com. So I encourage you to look at that video as well. I think just a wealth of knowledge, particularly if you're new to shooting video or new to shooting photos, or even a seasoned pro. I think, you know, Keith, it sounded like you got a tremendous amount out of workflow if to say shoot half the number of photos, and that's going to save you save half your time in the shoot. It's going to save you half the time in your post, and you'll be way happier. So anyway, we've covered a lot of ground. I'm a little slap happy after chatting for quite some bit, but I thank you again, Colin. Thanks again, Keith. And thank you all for tuning in to WGAN-TV live at 5. I've just stopped the